Implementing this one thing in your real estate business is going to 3x your profit. And in the next 12 to 15 minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly what that thing is. And it's not as complicated as you think. My name is Ruud-Johnson. I've been doing deals direct to seller for about a decade now, almost a decade, and helping hundreds and hundreds of investors, agents, flippers, developers, wholesalers around the country do the same thing for themselves and their business to build their dream real estate business. And one of the common things that I see that people are terrible at, they absolutely suck at, is what I call managing a long-term sales pipeline. They all front load their sales process. And what I mean by that is, and what I typically find is they're only capturing about 33% of the deals they could be if they were doing this right. And there are 3 steps to doing this right. It's managing the rule of 33%. I'll give you an example. On our best years at HelloPad of closing 15 to 20 deals per month, what we found is about 33% of the deals that we do come from leads that came into our system somewhere between 12 and 24 months ago. A third of those deals, so 33%, come from leads that came in between 6 and 12 months ago. And 33% came from leads that came into our system between 1 and 3 months ago. And that's a problem because most of you guys, you only focus on that first 1 to 3 months. And I oftentimes get on consulting calls or coaching calls and speak on stage and get questions around what is a good lead? And if you're asking the question, what is a good lead? That's one of the ways I know someone is just focusing on that first 1/3. Now, let me do this math for you. Statistically speaking, when you look across the data in the whole country, about 1% of leads that you get will close within the first 30 days. That goes up to about 3% in the first 90 days. Okay, a lot of you guys are building sales processes like you're constantly trying to win the lottery, and those deals will happen. I call those the one close home run deals, right? If you get a one close home run deal, it's amazing, and those will continue to happen as your lead flow increases. And I've made other videos on that. But for the sake of this video, we're going to focus on how you don't just try to win the lottery, but you get base hits every single month. Now, take 2 investors, take Bob and take Steve. And let's say Bob, his sales process is he pays 10 grand a month for marketing. He gets about 200 leads in per month, and he works those leads pretty aggressively for the first 30 days after they come in. And then if they're not super interested, he maybe sends them an email or a text once in a while. But that's pretty much his sales process. And then you take Steve. And Steve does the same thing, spends 10 grand a month, gets about 200 leads, but is very diligently focused on his sales process. And he, for the first 24 months, treats every lead like his only lead and gives them ample attention, time, energy, emails, newsletters, phone calls, text messages. Who do you think is going to build better relationships and extract more prospects and deals out of that pipeline? By now, you're realizing, oh, this Cole guy might have a point. Obviously, Steve is going to win in this situation, and he always does. Now, both of these business models work. And the beautiful thing about real estate is you can survive and win on both. The problem is, in scenario number 1 with Bob, he probably is at a 2 to 3x return on ad spend, meaning on that 10 grand, he is probably making 20 to 30, maybe 40 grand a month. Now, a lot of people start blaming that on their marketing channel. They blame that on their team, or they blame that on the interest rate, and they blame that on the market cycle that we're in. Now, good operators, they never blame external factors. And the reality is there's always 2 people you could blame, external factors or yourself. Guys like Steve, they blame themselves and they go, hey, what skill issue can I fix to improve my chances that I'm not going to end up like Bob? And you get guys like Steve who are doing 7 to 10x return on ad spend. And I'll talk about 2 client case studies and I'll have them pop up right here. The first one is Alec Brach. He was an investor in San Francisco who's a client of ours who was a physical therapist. And he was spending a ton of money on mailers. In fact, his cost per lead on mail got up over $1,000 per lead. And when you have that high of lead cost, you really have no margin per error. And he was really suffering on his return on ad spend. Now, when you couple a bad return on ad spend on top of a cost per lead of $1,000, it's really easy to go broke. And so how we fixed Alex, we lowered his cost per lead. We swapped mail for cold calling. We trained him on conversion. We trained him how to treat every lead like his only lead for 24 months. And now, which you can see this case study, you can actually go listen to it. Now he's doing deals consistently every single month and is one of our best success stories. You then have guys like Brandon Evans in Salt Lake City, which you can see right here. And he was a W-2 guy less than a year ago selling alarm systems. Now, he had the sales background, so he coupled that with our sales training, realizing how he could work leads every single day, constantly for 24 months. And he's at that 7 to 10 extra on that spend, has 150 grand in escrow right now, on pace for $1 million in his first year, and has increased his net worth also about $1 million in his first year. So this isn't just a $10,000 problem. Solving this and solving the issue of 33% is what I call it. Focusing on each bucket of 33%, all 3 buckets of 33%, allow you to be Brandon and not have to go through the period that Alex went through where you're always on the brink of going out of business. So how do we solve each third? Well, the first third, 30 to 60 days, is really pretty simple. And that's why a lot of people do this and do this only. The number one thing is speed to lead. And if you haven't seen the show, The First 48 is a murder mystery show. And really the premise is if you don't solve a murder in the first 48 hours, well, you don't really have that good a chance of solving it. Now, in real estate sales, if you can't get to a lead and start working it within 48 minutes, you're usually going to lose to your competition. So the first thing to solve the first bucket of 33%, that 30 to 60 day range, 30 to 90 day range, is speed to lead. Can you get to your leads within an hour of them coming into your system? Number 2 is categorization. Now, we want to follow up with all of our leads and treat them like our only lead, but you have to categorize. And there's really 3 buckets: hot, warm, and cold. And so after the first phone call with reps and discernment, you're going to gauge if someone's interested in having a conversation, if they're more lukewarm or they're cold. That's not based on price. That's how they engage with you, how they communicate with you, how responsive they are to your phone calls, text, and conversations that you're having. That third thing to maximize that first 33% budget is a strong brand. Having testimonials, having social proof, having a credibility packet, having things that when you start communicating with them right off the bat, they make you trust them more than your competition. So how you master that first bucket is speed to lead, categorization, and brand building, trust, and leverage. That is how you solve that. And a lot of you guys do that great already, but most of you don't do the brand part. It's so important. How you solve that second bucket, that 6 to 12 months, is with one hire. And that hire is an acquisition manager. An acquisition manager is someone that you can pay somewhere between 20 and 25% per deal if they're stateside, or 10% if they're overseas, and a small base. I've had success with both. One of our best guys ever, Theo, was in Venezuela, was overseas. Now, the reason acquisition manager is so important is because if it's just you, it's really hard to keep track of leads beyond those 90 days up until 12 months if you don't have support. Now, the second way you solve the second bucket beyond an acquisition manager, and if you want to go recruit one, you can use Indeed or you can use Upwork. The trick, in my opinion, is to go to people that have a brand in your market and pay them $500 to post a job opportunity on their story. That will bring in applicants for you as well. So that is the acquisitions piece. The second way you really help yourself is systems, and having a really good CRM that can manage your drip campaigns and long-term nurture sequences, to send out a weekly newsletter, to send texts, email, and reminders so you can stay on top of people week over week. And the number one rule I say is the rule of 50% here, which is anytime someone says, call me in X amount of days, you cut that in half. So bucket 1, you solve with what? Speed to lead, categorization, and brand. Bucket number 2, you solve with an acquisition manager, and you solve with a good CRM. Bucket number 3, you solve with 2 more things. One of those is a lead manager, and a lead manager is someone that owns your pipeline, nurtures leads. They're not quite an acquisition person. They nurture and keep leads alive, and especially the colder ones until they're ready to talk to someone on your acquisition team. You're going to pay them between $1,500 and $2,500 per month. They can absolutely be overseas, and then a small commission of 1 to 3%. All day, their job is to own your pipeline, nurture and revive opportunity. And as your pipeline grows, that position gets more important. That's why bucket number 3, that 12 to 24 month bucket, you have to have a lead manager. And the second thing you have to have is you have to be mastering the skill of underwriting. If you cannot make offers in 3 to 5 minutes, you will suffer and not be able to manage a pipeline that big. So that is how you fix the 3 buckets of 33%. Bucket number 1 is speed to lead, categorization, and absolutely have to have a brand and leverage and separating yourself from your competition. Bucket number 2 is an acquisition manager and a CRM and leveraging data and tech. And bucket number 3 is a good lead manager and underwriting. That is how you solve for both months 1 through 3, months 3 through 12, and months 12 through 24 and beyond. That is how you capture all 3 parts of your sales process. And you end up like Brandon with a 7 to 10 extra on ad spend and $1 million his first year in business, and don't have to go through what Alex went through, almost going out of business and paying $1,000 per lead with something like direct mail. If you're new to the channel here and you haven't subscribed or checked out the off-market method, in my opinion, is the #1 community for investors, agents, wholesalers, developers trying to fill their pipeline, do more deals, turn their hustle into a business. No matter how big you are, you absolutely probably have a hustle. Guys like Brandon and Alex and hundreds of others, about 600 others are in there. So check that out. And if you want to work with my team one-on-one, check us out below at Easy Button Real Estate. As always, you're only one deal away. Again, the work is an implementation. The work is an execution. It's not that hard to watch a YouTube video. So now my challenge to you is to actually go and do the work.